All right, let's go ahead and we're going to get rolling. So today I want to take advantage of some Moxie training. A lot of you, and I do mean a lot. I have been working with a lot of you individually on your Moxie setup and your database, and we are making good progress towards getting your contacts, the people on the, as Mike always says, all of the people on the planet who know you and who you know into your CRM. But and some of you are doing a great job of getting them in. Some of you are doing a good job of once you getting them in, manipulating them and starting to work with them so that you can become the top of mind real estate expert. However, I think a lot of us are falling short, me included. And so today I wanted to go back to basics, and we're going to talk about I'm going to teach you two different things today using two different methods. First, general strategy about CRM database management, and then we're going to look at some very specific details and things that you can do within Moxi that are the mechanics of practical application of the implementation of the big picture strategy that we're going to talk about at first. Okay, so I am not going to reinvent the wheel on this training. There's actually some really good resources available, and what we are about to do are a couple of resources that are available within the Moxi training within Century 21. So I am, as I've said, I am not going to reinvent the wheel. So we're going to actually participate in some video training that Moxi has put out. But we're going to do it in this forum, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to work on it individually afterwards. Okay. So based off of that, let's roll back the clock. Let's talk about big picture, why we want to stratify and to categorize and to segregate our database. And then we're going to talk about the details of how to do that. All right. Any questions before we get rolling? All right. Bear with me as I share my screen. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Brett Caltharp here, director.
Does everybody have audio before I get too far into this? Everybody's got the audio. Good. All right. Yeah. So this is training that is readily available. Like I said, this is coming straight from Century 21. There's a series in here by this gentleman, Brett Caltharp, directly from MoxiWorks, but great information. And these are just bite-sized. It's called 15 Minutes of Moxi, and we're going to watch this one and one other today.
All right, so let's get MoxiWorks, and thank you for joining us for another 15 minutes of MoxiWorks. Really excited for this one. It's the first of our Moxi Engage series, and we're going to start by talking about what else? Database strategy. So what exactly are we going to cover today? Well, most importantly, how are you going to use Moxi Engage to stay in flow with your sphere of influence? We're going to talk about why this is so critical to your business's success. We're going to talk about how you could be driving more business from the people that are already in your database, leveraging email in that strategy, the importance of marketing segmentations, which we'll talk a lot more about in some other future editions of this, and then some campus practices. We're also going to share a few tips on how to make sure your database is ready to go to use within Moxi Engage. So when starting to figure out your strategy, it really starts at the beginning of discovering what are your true strengths. So you need to ask yourself, what kind of real estate professional are you? Are you leads based? Are you somebody who converts a lot of online leads? If this is your strategy, if this is just driving leads into my website, into my CRM, or are you more sphere based? Or maybe perhaps you're a combination of the both. Well, whatever your mindset is, well, I like doing the leads or I like doing sphere, that should really drive your strategy and your systems, not the other way around. Now, the good news is Moxi Engage is perfectly capable of handling online lead generation and conversion, in addition to, of course, sphere marketing, which is kind of baked right into that productivity system. So either way you go, we're going to be able to work together with Moxi Engage and have that work great for you. But this is the time where you just need to put these decisions into play. Where am I really going to concentrate? Where is most of my business coming from? And we find that the agents that do this, that really understand their business, they find more traction in terms of their real estate business. So there's really a quick 3-step process to get ready for using Engage. Number one, know your business. look back at the last year or two and where did that business come from? You might spend a lot of money on online leads, but is most of your business generated from your sphere, from past clients, from referrals, wherever it may be? You want to know those percentages, and you also want to evaluate how much am I spending towards those percentages. Am I spending a lot of money on lead gen and not having the kind of results that I'm having when I look at sphere marketing? Next, you want to know where your business is going to go, and your data is going to tell you those opportunities, right? If you take a look for the last 2 years, you're going to kind of see where the market has placed you. You're going to see the types of folks that you work with more often than not. And so you can figure out a plan to say, hey, look, I like working with this segment of buyers, but what do I need to do to drive towards other segments of buyers? What can I do to attract their interest? And then we need to connect back those goals to our daily mindset and those activities. And then finally, go all in. How does my plan support these efforts? And then using systems and tools to help us optimize the plan. Right? You should always have multiple pillars of business. I'm sure you've probably heard this 4 or 5 different places. So if you find that most of your business is coming from 2 or 3 sources, it's a great time to take a look and say, well, what are some other segments of the market where perhaps I can gain some traction, gain some ground, and gain some leads? As we've mentioned, Moxi Engage is centered around a sphere selling methodology because we know that an agent sphere is typically where business comes from. And that's why we've tried to make it super easy for you to have that true relationship management by making sure it's connected with your email contacts, your calendar, so that you can see what's going on in your sphere. That's really important. The great thing about this dashboard is you can customize it, and it really does give you an all up of what's going on in your business at that time by having these integrations. So this is really important as you're starting to kind of go down the path of what's the best way for me to use this Moxi Engage to help my business. You really need to, number one, narrow and focus ruthlessly. A lot of agents might have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 contacts in your database. And if you try to nurture all of those at the exact same time in the exact same way, you're not going to have the kind of success as you will if you segment and add personalization and make sure that you're reaching out to people at the right times and spending your energy where that business is going to come from. A shotgun approach, it can work a little bit, but it's definitely not the most strategic way to do it. And when we look at agents who use our products, we find that the ones who are much more strategic have a better track record in terms of business. And also it's important to remember that quality is not built overnight. You know, building relationships takes time. And yes, maybe you have a customer that you talk to every day because they're buying a house. But then after that closes, now what? Right? If the average person, we're seeing research say 10 to 12 years between buying houses, what am I going to do to stay in touch with this person and provide value and hopefully not only gain a great friendship, but also gain referrals from this person? So we need to be thinking about this and making sure that we are aligning our activities with what's going to generate business for us. So once you first bring in the contacts into Moxi Engage, you can kind of start this segmentation process. You can see here that we've got a picture of our My People dashboard, and you've got a couple different things you can do. Number one, you can manually select, and you can see over there with a mirror, you can manually select all. So I would select all 2,667 contacts, or I can select some if I've already created categories. So for example, if I've used the categorize wizard where I've already identified past sellers, past buyers, etc., I can then use those filters to bring up a list of just those people. Likewise, groups, which are different than categories, I could create as many groups as I want, and then using the filters, I can say, you know, I don't just want past sellers, I want past sellers 2015. So you have lots of different options to use filters to be able to go through here. Now, when you first bring them in, if they're not automatically categorized, you're just going to click that button on the top right that's Categorize Wizard. And using a nice list of contacts that don't have a category, and it's very simple, click and say, okay, well, this one's a personal contact, this one's a past client, this is somebody I'm actively working with, and it really makes the process go fairly quickly. So you can see the other end of adding people to a database is taking them out. Now, if you are going to have your email sync, it will, of course, occasionally bring in contacts that maybe just aren't appropriate for your CRM. It does look and see, you know, who have I been emailing? So if you have friends overseas that you're friends with, or perhaps it's your 1-800, 1-800 flowers emails that come in that might somehow come in as a contact because there's an email there. you want to go through and take a look and remove the ones that aren't going to make sense. So in this example, we have Amir and Aaron here that we're saying, you know, those are personal friends. They shouldn't be in there. So all you have to do is you click on them and then click on that remove button next to the trash can. Once you do that, you can see that I've got 2 contacts that I've added from Engage. They're going to remain in my email account. Now, this is important. It's going to still be in my email account, but they're going to be hidden and they won't be seeing anything within Moxi Engage. And then I can select why. Either they're invalid, undesired, whatever it may be. So this is a really important step when you first get started. Now, if you're going to sync people, this is necessary. The other opportunity you have is you can actually download your contacts out of what you're currently using and go to support.moxiworks.com and download a CSV file, which is basically an Excel file. And that is going to be a template for how to upload contacts into Engage. And we'll cover that in a future episode. But all you need to do is download that template and then just copy and paste the information from your current database export into the Moxi Engage template. Then you go ahead and import them and everything will be in there for you. And you can go ahead and edit and delete contacts within that spreadsheet versus using it. Either one works great. And this one, of course, you can use some bulk functionality, which is nice. So all of this is important to remember that your database is your business driver, right? And not only can you customize your workflow using strategy, et cetera, but you can take that strategy and apply it to Moxi Engage in terms of customizing your workflow. Perhaps there's other companies you work with and you can use some of their integrations within there. And then, of course, using the campaigns functionality, which we'll talk about in an upcoming edition of 15 Minutes with MoxiWorks. The other tool, cannot emphasize enough, neighborhood news, super easy way to begin supercharging your business. You can send out this fantastic targeted interactive email that will take people, if you're using a Moxi website, actually to your site to view the data. So they can go right into searching and they're on your site. And they have an ability to take a look and they can change things. If you have them signed up for one zip code and they want to check out another one, all they have to do is enter that in and they can take a look. So it really is self-guided for your clients to be able to find the information that they're looking for. So we talked about campaigns, and these are things I want you to start thinking about in terms of working into your strategy, because part of your database strategy is, of course, not only just getting the contacts in, but what are we going to say to them? What are we going to do? Well, here's some suggestions that we find work really well. Number one is an explainer video series, right? Now I'm going to be mentioning video a lot here, but it's one thing to go online and create a blog post. It's quite another just to be able to pop in and say, hey, I'm going to create a video series on YouTube just using my phone, and then I can create a campaign around it. What it's like to work with me and my company, local real estate questions. What's the home buying and selling process look like? You know, if I haven't bought a home in a few years, things might have changed quite a bit. Obviously, your local market, restaurants, entertainment options locally, which we talked about in the My Hometown edition of the Moxi Present 15 Minutes. And of course, don't forget testimonials. You can also spotlight anything in your area, whether it's school districts, local charities, organizations, and of course, you can have contests. Who doesn't love contests? So you can send out, perhaps as part of your monthly newsletter, you know, ask them for, hey, send us the cutest picture of your child pretending to be a realtor, and we'll pick 3 winners and give you prizes, or whatever it may be. Hey, we're looking for the prettiest garden. So using these within campaigns work very well for generating engagement. That's it for this first 15 minutes of MoxiWorks covering Moxi Engage. Stay tuned for.
All right. Was that helpful? Kind of gives you the big picture overview, right? Does anybody have any questions? All right, I'm going to launch right into, we're going to do one more of the same series, but it goes one step further. Bear with me as I cue it up. This is where we're going to talk about tune-up. So once you've got people in your database, the specific actions that you should go about getting them in, what you're going to do once you get them into your database, how you're going to set them up on your campaigns. This is a good overview of the steps. All right, so let me share again. Okay, everybody looking at the screen with Brett again? Thank you. All right.
Brett Caltharp here, Director of Agent Engagement for MoxiWorks, and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of MoxiWorks. Today is going to be Moxi Engage specific, and we're going to be talking about database tune-up. So to begin with database tune-up, I want to quickly go over all the different aspects of having a contact in Moxi Engage. If you're unfamiliar with the platform, when you pull up a list, you'll see all sorts of different things on the screen. So I thought it made sense to kind of walk you through what each one of those A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I are. So number one, obviously A is your name. So this reflects the name of that contact. B, that date is the date of your last change. Okay. And then C for recent activity. This shows any kind of recent change that's happened in the contact card. So you can see below there that we've gone ahead and subscribed Brian to listing announcements, which is spelled out under there for the activity details. Over on E down at the bottom in the blue outline, you see where it says buyer. Now this is a category. Categories are set in Moxi Engage. You cannot edit them. And this is basically what is done when using the categorize wizard. And you have all sorts of options for these folks. You can have current client buyer, current client seller, past client buyer, past client seller, marketing. You can have personal contacts. You can have folks that you work with in a business capacity, all sorts of different categories. So the best way to categorize folks is using the categorize wizard, which when you pull up my people, you'll see those contacts, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. Next to those in F, now these are groups and lead sources. So now groups you can create, and you can create as many as you'd like. You can see that Brian here belongs to two different groups, 234 and star group. I'll just say 234 might be the area code, who knows, and then star group. So you can have multiple categories assigned to a contact. You can have multiple groups assigned to a contact. Now, what this is fantastic for, of course, is personalization and segmentation. You'll see in other episodes of 15 Minutes, we actually go into some of the statistics, but I'll share a little secret now. Personalization is going to make sure that your emails are far more effective, that they're opened more often, that the people engage with the content. They want to feel like this was crafted just for me. So without going into the most minute of details, you can actually create several different groups that you can use to make sure that you're sharing information that is relevant to that contact when you want to. So if perhaps you have a potential first-time home buyer as a group, right? You don't need to send first-time home buyer advice to somebody that's bought 3 or 4 investment properties for you. So having these segmentations allow you to still be able to use campaigns in a way that you can send lots of messages at once, but you can just be more strategic about it. Not, hey, do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell? Give me a call, that you send out to 2,000 people in the database and hope, okay, great, I hope they actually open that and do that. Being more personalized is going to help with that quite a bit. Over on the right, you'll see a section that shows up on the far right when you look at my people. The first option is to log activity. This is great because I can basically go in and without pulling up that contact card, I can go in and log an activity, whether I've met with them, maybe I've sent them a flyer or a postcard, perhaps I've done a drop by and dropped off a pizza and some soda for tonight, whatever it may be. Using Moxi Engage right there, I can log that activity while I'm doing it, right? H, I can send a quick email to this person. So as long as you have an email address for that contact, I don't have to go over to Gmail and try to remember, et cetera. If you're using the integrations, if I go on that tab and I say email and say, okay, I want to send a quick email to Brian and say, hey, thank you for signing up for listing announcements. Was there anything that caught your eye? I could do it right from here in Engage. And then it will not only capture that information within Engage, but remember with our integration with Gmail, it will actually send from your Gmail account. So it just prevents a lot of double entry, which is fantastic. And then last but not least, phone. So anybody who you have a phone number in here, again, pulling up their contact in Moxi Engage or pulling up a list of contacts on Moxi Engage with one button click, I can go ahead and pull up their phone number and give them a call from right here in the platform. Super quick and easy, and you don't have to bounce back and forth between different apps or screens. Now, a great way to get started when you first start with Moxi, or perhaps you've just brought in maybe 200 emails from I worked a home show over the weekend, so I have all these brand new contacts I'm bringing in, is to use our categorize wizard. the other thing you can do is have this overview screen, which is when you pull up My People. And when you do this, you'll see a bunch of folks that maybe you haven't worked with too much lately and in with them from within your sales flow. And then it will give you ideas. Hey, do we want to subscribe them to neighborhood news? Do we want to sign them up for listing updates? And I can just very quickly and easily add them to campaigns or take other actions. So I can either hit skip or subscribe. These all show subscribe, but there's other actions that show really nice ability to kind of bubble up folks that maybe you haven't dealt with in a while, just to make sure you're keeping up with your whole sphere. Now, I want to talk quickly about groups and categories, and this shows that whole screen instead of breaking it down. And you can see that in the top section here under My People, I've pulled up a couple of different groups. I've looked for past groups of past sellers from 2018, 2017. I've looked for past buyers of 2016 and 2018. Once I did that, I've pulled up 31 contacts that are a member or one of or more of those groups. Now, that's what you see in the white section. And you can also see other groups. So example, I uploaded a bunch of contacts 12/12 of 2019, and you can see a lot of folks belong to that group. It's automatically created when you upload. If I don't want to use it, I can delete that group. But I keep it in there just to keep track of when people went into my database. So when you see those white boxes, those are groups. And being able to use the groups, you can click on the Edit Groups feature, which is right towards the top next to Categorize Wizard. The colored buttons with the background, again, those are categories, and those are ones that you can use that Categorize Wizard on the far right to put them into categories. And as you can see, they can be in multiple categories. You can see here that Kessie is not only she a past seller, she's a past buyer. And I know that she bought in 2016 and sold in 2017. So I've got all this information here, and I can mark it accordingly, either by category or by groups. Again, that Categorize Wizard makes it really easy to do this. It'll pull in, you push that button, and it'll pull up anybody in your database that is uncategorized, that you haven't given a category to. And you can see I've got 3 down here. So we have the option to assign them by selecting the client or non-client. So let's start with client. Now, if we select client, our different options, as you can see here, is I can say they're a buyer or a seller. That means I'm currently working with them. Past buyer, past seller, past buyer and seller. Or if we're not quite there, we can just create a marketing plan to kind of start pushing them that direction, to hopefully lead them down the primrose path to becoming somebody that we're actively looking with. Okay, so when we talk about category management, let's start with clients and past clients. And you can see those at the top of this screen. So if I selected a client or a past client, you can see instead of a non-client, these are going to be my options. Number 1, qualify this lead. These are folks that aren't really ready to buy or sell, but I want to add them to our marketing flow. So we go ahead and click that, and they can start getting our information. Now we have a seller or a buyer prospect. These folks are a lot closer to being able to want to go out and buy or sell something. This is really important for us, so we can put them as a prospect. We also have past buyers, past sellers, right? And so that way we can hit them with personalized information that's relevant to the fact that we've worked with them before. And then, of course, our sellers and our buyers, these are people we're actively working with to make sure that, we're trying to find them a house, or we're actively working with them to try to get that listing. When we talk about non-clients, that's the example at the bottom. You can see Bridget there. We've highlighted non-client. So we have 3 different options. We have our first option, personal. These aren't collaborators. These are friends, family members that maybe we just don't need to be in the flow. So my aunt up in Connecticut really doesn't need to know what the real estate market's doing in Kansas City. So I can mark her as personal. It takes her out of the flow. Now remember, it does not take her out of my contacts. Removing a contact from Engage does not take them out of your email contacts. It simply marks them as I'm not going to send them marketing materials. Collaborators, these are folks that we work with professionally in the industry or in our local area. So this could be home inspectors, mortgage folks, other agents that we like to work. If I get a lot of luxury listings, I want to have in my database, who are the agents who tend to get a lot of luxury buyers, right? I can have those in there. And then finally, remove from Engage, which is exactly what it says. If there's no reason for me to keep Bridget in there, I can just click on remove, she disappears, and I go on to the next one. So part of making Engage really work for you is the ability to come in and record everything, right? And this is going to help with not only the personalization in terms of your messaging that we've talked about in our additional 15 minutes of Moxi that handled your database strategy, and we also have one that strictly talks about personalization. It will also be wonderful for you when you want to pull up somebody you haven't talked to for a while, right? Most of us have a pretty good memory, but if I haven't talked to you in a few months, maybe some of the details are hazy. I've done research on the brain, and believe it or not, the average human brain can basically maintain 150 relationships at once. Once you start going above that with acquaintances and et cetera, if you want it to feel personal, if you want it to feel like we're perhaps better friends than maybe my brain might allow me to handle, you can use technology to help with that. So you can see in here, I can go in and add in relationships, who's their spouse or partner? Do they have children? Who referred them? So let's say I called this contact. I can see who referred them right there and call and say, hey, Jim, I just had a wonderful conversation with John. I want to thank you again for trusting me. So it really kind of helps you again to stay in flow that way. Dates, birthdays, house anniversaries, anniversaries, you can put those in here, and actually there's functionality that will help you to remember when these dates come up for your clients, which we will talk about in an upcoming 15 minutes of MoxiWorks. You've also, of course, have personal profile. Now, when you click on that add personal field, you can put whatever you'd like in there. You can put what college did they go to? What sports teams are they really interested in? What hobbies do they have? Maybe their favorite bands. Hey, John, did you know that the Eagles are coming to town? I know you really love them. I wanted to give you a heads up. Whatever information you want to capture so that when you pull up that contact, you can give it a quick look and remember details that you've learned about this client over the months and years that you've known them. So I appreciate your guys' time today as we talked about how contacts work within Moxi Engage and how it's so.
All right. How's everybody doing? Did that help? I'm genuinely curious. It helped me to figure out segmentation, why I want to do it, why it's important. Couple of things just to call out in there. I love the idea of the explainer video series that you could start doing. If somebody hadn't figured out that one yet, a way to make a campaign out of it is pretty awesome, and to use video in the process is great. And I love the idea of record everything. I have had situations where I've recorded the dog's name into my CRM before, and a year and a half later, I'll reach out to him and I go, hey, how's Sambo doing? And they're like, oh, Sambo passed. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's the granularity. That's the stickiness that you want with your client. And if you can take that one step of recording the fact that, oh, you know what? I saw that Sally's Facebook page said that tomorrow is her birthday, but I don't have that in my database. So it would take all of 10 seconds to go into Sally's contact in my Moxi Engage, go down to her dates, put in her birthday, and add her to the campaign. She gets a message that tomorrow is her birthday, and she gets a nice little email card from me. That's the kind of stickiness that you want to get with your clients, and that's just a perfect example. And this kind of tells you the steps in the process of how to start doing that. All right. Hopefully you found that productive and helpful and useful. And if anybody has any questions or wants to take the next step, or you saw something here that was a spark to an idea, or a jab in the ribs to move forward and get your Moxi set up and your Engage and your contacts loaded in, you don't know where to go, that's what I'm here for. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week and a happy Halloween.